picked him up really early before we got there to go warm up for the match, and he goes, "Dude, I checked the draw. We had been not checking the draw." He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna play Sock and McGuffin."
Good morning. It's time to wake up. I'm downtown Logan Brown, and this is the Sunday Dinking Club. Today we're talking all things pickleball with banker by day, pickleball pro by weekend, Eric Roddy. If you don't know Eric, him and his buddy Jim Dobrin just beat tennis legend Jack Sock and Tyson McGuffin in men's doubles at the PPA North Carolina Open. Let's get into it. All right, great, Eric. Welcome to the pod, man. Thanks for coming on the Sunday Dinking Club, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. I know you got a big trip tomorrow, which we're going to get into in a moment. But I wanted to kick things off. I do things a little differently around here. I know that a lot of people jump right into interview questions and background, but I want to give the people what they want right away. And I want to give a little background on myself about how this went down, and then I want you to tell the story. So this is my first PPA event. First pro pickleball tournament. I show up at like 9:30 because I'm traveling from Greenville, South Carolina, about 2 hours away. I roll in. I actually didn't even check the schedule. I knew something was coming on championship court at 10, but I didn't know what it was. So I roll in and I see you guys warming up. I see Jack Sock walk on the court with a phone on his ear, like he's talking to whoever, and Tyson cruising in. You guys are rolling. So that's my perspective coming in. I want to hear what your perspective was on the day and coming into that match, and how you guys were approaching it.
Yeah. So it's funny because Jim and I had to go through qualies on Wednesday, but we were seated high enough and had enough points that we only had to win one qualifier match to get in.
Okay.
And once we had done that on Wednesday, we knew going in, they had those 8 qualifying spots. We knew we were going to play a top seed. It was just a matter of thinking, kind of doing the math in our heads and seeing who it might be. And then Jim, actually, I picked him up on Saturday because he was having some issues with his truck. So picked him up really early before we got there to go warm up for the match. And he goes, "Dude, I checked the draw. We had been not checking the draw." He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna play Sock and McGuffin." So I was pretty fired up. I didn't know about it until Saturday morning. And again, like I've said, Jack and I've been playing with Brooke Buckner and Jim and some other people here in Charlotte because he lives in Davidson, about 20 minutes away. So we've been playing pretty regularly the last couple months. He's the man, dude. He's a great guy. Really enjoyed getting to play with him. He's definitely upped our games, and we got him ready for Charlotte. So it was a blast getting to play him on that court. Especially kind of waking up Saturday morning and finding out then. So yeah, really
Talk
cool.
about last minute.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
amazing. I mean, at this point, there's no spoilers. Like, you won, which is great. and you guys made it on to play Travis and was it a Deacon?
Yeah.
So you guys played them, which is really cool. Have you played Travis before?
No, we had played some rec games earlier in the week actually because he came a little bit early. But before that, no, hadn't played him. His hands are really great. He's a good player.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to take away and ask you about, I didn't realize coming into the conversation that you guys had played before. You and Jack, you'd warmed up that week. You guys had played in Charlotte already, but it seemed like you guys were playing super loose. Like, I'm gonna throw the highlight reel on top of this video as we're talking. But there was this one point that I think you shared as well. And I'm watching, I basically moved from behind the benches to side court because I really wanted to be in the action. I was like front row, and Jack hits one lob to you, tweenered it. Second lob to you, you tweenered again.
Stunner so far in 2023. One more time. Why not? Oh, wow. Unbelievable, Drew. I mean, Roddy going back, getting 2 tweener resets. Absolutely perfect. and then Sock with the forehand attempt at a put away, and it just goes long.
That can't be the highest value shot there. Were you just having fun at that point, just like playing lights out because you didn't there's nothing to lose? Tell me about like your thought process going through some of these points with them.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're probably right about not being the highest percentage shot, but I would argue sometimes it is, especially on
Okay.
those tighter courts when you get back there. By the time you kind of turn and try to scoop a lob back or try to hit a drop, sometimes it's easier. I'm definitely not the fastest player. Sometimes it's easier just to kind of go for the tweener.
Yeah.
I feel like it's way easier in pickleball to hit a decent enough tweener to stay in the point than tennis. But yeah, just to your point of playing loose, I mean, Jim and I, we knew going in we were the underdogs. We knew we were playing in front of a home crowd. We knew Jack was going to bring the energy and it was going to be an exciting atmosphere. So that's when I think Jim and I play our best, and me personally in singles as well is on the big stage. It helps you focus. And then in terms of playing loose, like anytime I can hit a fun shot or hit something that will be entertaining, I'm gonna do it as long as it's a decent enough right opportunity, right shot. So I felt
Yeah.
like those both of those were, and what a point. I mean, it was a blast. Looking back at it, it's like wow, that was a great point. So
Yeah, I mean, I was only there for Saturday, but it felt like one of the best points of the whole day. It was amazing. I wish like more people would have just been in the crowd at that time to see because it was a lot of fun. All right, so I don't want to discount your partner Jim. So tell me about like how you guys met. Are you guys consistent partners? You told me you're traveling to Ohio this weekend for APP. I think he's in Ohio or from Ohio. What's the story there?
yeah, so Jim's pretty OG when it comes to pickleball, having played for the last 3 years or so. Granted, he's
Nice.
not like one of the first people ever to play, but he's very much an OG. So I've known who he is. I lived in Athens the past couple of years when I was getting my MBA at Georgia, so recognized his name from tournaments and knew he was a high level player. So when I moved to Charlotte, I contacted him. I was like, hey man, just moved here. Would love to play some. Just so happened he was kind of looking for a more permanent partner. So was I. So we've been playing together for about a year now, which is awesome. So yeah, we're gonna go to Cincinnati. Excuse me.
You're good.
We're gonna go to Cincinnati, and then the following weekend we're gonna play the PPA in Atlanta. So yeah, should be fun.
That's a fun schedule. Are you kind of like all in at this point? What's your what's like real work to or like the 9 to 5 to pickleball ratio now?
Yeah, so I still work full time for Bank of America,
Yep.
um, which is a great company, by the way. They obviously have enough flexibility in my schedule to kind of work and do pickleball semi full time. I like to tell people that I'm full time, part time, because obviously this is not my main source of income. This is not what I'm doing for 8 hours a day. I'm not getting to train like the full time players, but pretty much any free time I have outside of work and outside of kind of doing some other things like going to the driving range and doing some hanging out with friends and stuff. I'm pretty much playing pickleball full time. So looking forward to Cincy, looking forward to Atlanta. Then we'll probably have about a month of no tournaments and then get ready for kind of summer fall. So yeah,
That's awesome. All right, I want to get more into the tournaments here in a minute, but jumping back into your background for a minute. So I did as much research as I could on you, and I want to know if I got what I got right here and what I need to correct. But so you're a tennis
gotcha.
player at Swanee, right? University of
Yep.
the South.
Yep.
Now you're teaching pickleball as well on the side. Just doing some like
Hmm.
instruction stuff if people need you. Is that kind of right?
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. And then you and Jim playing dubs. Are you playing singles or mixed at all? Or are you just doing men's doubles?
I am. So yeah, my main two events are singles and mixed, or sorry, singles and men's doubles, no mixed at this time. And Jim always jokes, and he's probably right. I think I'm better at singles than I am at doubles, but hoping to kind of even those out a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm curious too, because I had a couple of friends from Greenville that are at the tournament this weekend playing 4-5, but
Hmm.
all of them have ambition to get to the next level. Like they're playing those tournaments for a reason. And you mentioned like you got the full-time job, you're practicing as much as you can, but what is it that you think is like of course there's natural ability, but what's taking you to the next level? Like what do you see a big difference between a 4-5 and right at 5-0 to getting above the 5-5 and 6-0 mark?
Yeah, I think the biggest jump is first of all, I think that is one of the biggest jumps is to kind of go from the 4.045 to the the pro or the 5-0 level. Because by 4-5, I mean you know the game well. You kind of get the formula of the point, which is serve, return, get to the kitchen, dink. Um, but for me, really, I think that that jump comes from the consistency, and having that point in, point out, that focus to stay in a dink rally, and then also to have the hand speed and the counter ability and just the decision making. I think is kind of what separates the pro from the 4 or 5 levels is knowing what shot to hit when and having confidence to hit it and being able to execute it. I mean, you can say, obviously pros have faster hands, they have better counters, better speed ups. But really, what I think they rely on is just having that consistency and having that ability to make the right decision at all times. Because ultimately, that's what limits unforced errors, and I think that's what wins matches.
Yeah, I mean, when I think back to that match with Jack and Tyson, one, the hand speed was insane. I don't think this like you can see the speed ups on TV, but just seeing it in person, I didn't realize how quick it was.
Hmm.
But at your level, I noticed you guys were going middle a lot on the speed ups. They speed up to you, you're pounding it back middle. Can you is getting to that 6-0 level the ability to directionally change the speed up and put it where you want it? Is that what's really making the difference?
I think that, but even more than that is kind of when you go into a firefight, knowing first of all, knowing your spots that are vulnerable, the hips and spots on the hips, spots on the shoulders, knowing that you need to protect those in a firefight, and then like you said, also being able to find the spots that you need to hit. For me, I like and Jim, we like to attack the middle because that at least makes those two players come together, which might open some of the lines on the next shot if we get a next shot, and then also just making them have to communicate and get to the middle and also maybe extend and lunge instead. Sometimes when you go right at somebody's body, they're more ready and they can counter a little bit easier.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the thinking there is just what spots am I vulnerable for in a hands battle, and then also what targets am I going for so that I can ultimately finish the point.
Love it. And so, how fast were you moving up the ranks? Like, how much do you equate to your natural ability versus just putting in the time and the grind? I mean, clearly tennis had to have helped curb that a bit, but how quickly were you moving up?
Yeah, I think you see the easiest transition from tennis to singles, because it is such more of a full court game, and you can drive way more on your thirds, and doubles I think is really where the steepest learning curve is. So for me, starting a couple years ago when I played my first tournament in Indianapolis, I had some success winning around, and the difference now I would say is everybody's good. In pro, these qualifying draws are 50 something. North Carolina was 50 something people, and I felt like coming through qualies. I beat Stefan Alvarin in the third match, and was a great win to even just get into the tournament. I mean, that's insane. Whereas a year ago, I would get in the main draw no matter what. So I'm
Wow.
happy with my progress, kind of given, like I said earlier, the schedule that I have, and not being able to play every single tournament. So um, my goal is always to qualify in singles and dubs, and then try to make some noise and take out a top seed before hopefully making a run. So been pleased with it so far.
Man, that's great. Yeah, I was curious with the qualifiers. It seems like it's got to be a grind, but you
Yeah,
confirmed it. It's a grind.
it is a grind for sure. Yeah.
Man. And so, all right, so let's talk about tournaments for a second. We're going to get into, I want to talk about pickleball news. So, this segment is mainly about just talking about kind of hot topics that I'm hearing about in the sport. And I want like a pro's perspective. This came up earlier this week. Let's talk about tournaments for a moment. Pickle Juice podcast was talking about APP versus PPA versus MLP. There was an interesting quote on there, I think by Zook. I don't know if you follow this guy on Twitter. He's great, but he pretty much tweets about the game constantly. And he mentioned that he feels like the APP right now is a bit of a money arbitrage for good players. I'm really thinking about like Diesco and the Johnson brothers, maybe even yourself. I'm curious, like, what do you think about the idea that the APP right now doesn't have as many of the top 20 players playing in it consistently, and if you feel confident in yourself, you can go in there and get the cash right now because it's not too full. Like, do you feel like that's the a sentiment that it's going around between some of the players?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the money is more the focus. I know, a big portion of why the APP draws and tournaments aren't quite as loaded with the top stars has to do with the PPA giving out cards to their players, right? So
Yeah.
when the PPA gives out those cards, it's basically binding those players to only play PPA, MLP events, that kind of thing. Um, so that right there takes, anyone who's a PPA touring pro takes them out of the mix for the APP. So
Okay.
speaking to what you said, the opportunity is there, right? So there is that opportunity to, you're not going to have to play a Ben Johns. You're not going to have to play the top 5 or 6 or 7, 10 players every single time you step into an APP tournament. So you can go in with I mean, I try to go into every tournament with the expectation to win, but you can go in with the understanding that maybe that run is the ability to make a run, the ability to place and get some money is there. Um, I would say none of these pro players are playing these tournaments necessarily just for the money, like especially the APPs. For me, and especially speaking of my own experience, I know that I'm going to play any tournament that I can feasibly travel to and without, having to spend, a grand on a flight, like going out to
Yeah.
California and all that. So that's a big factor too, is some of these APP locations are attractive for that reason. Um, I guess I don't really have a yes or no to your question, but I think the opportunity is there to win some money at these APPs, given that the top 10 or 15 or so aren't there. But I would assume there's more going into the decision making than that. My dream would be to see these leagues kind of working in unison with each other. There's this feeling of like kind of beef between them. Um, I would like, the ability to have all these different tournaments working together and kind of coming up with like a really awesome event. I feel like MLP is a fantastic event because of the team atmosphere and all that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to kind of have those 2 tours or 3 tours or 4, all working together to kind of create a really special atmosphere like that week in and week out. But that's just my opinion. So
No, that you're here for your opinion. I mean, we're here for your opinion. That's what we're here for,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
No, but this was literally on my topic list, and I'm super curious to dig in further because from an amateur perspective like mine, just somebody who watches and plays. A year ago when I joined, like just started playing pickleball, the APP to me was like the everyday man's league. Seemed like it was easier to get into. You could rise through the ranks a little faster, but this was just like on the surface level. The PPA seemed like the cream of the crop, and the MLP seemed like it's a totally different format with the same great players in the PPA.
Mhm.
Now that I'm in this a bit longer, I realize there's a lot of APP players that play MLP
Mhm.
and APP that will play PPA. But then, like you said, with the cards, now it's a bit different. So some
Right.
PPA players won't be in the APP tournaments. Do you foresee a world where APP continues to exist? And if they do, what's their bread and butter that they what are they going to bring to the table? Are they going to is it like a you move through us to get to the highest levels? Is that what they'll continue to do, or can they be a PPA competitor of sorts and bring the highest ranking individuals through the tournaments?
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question just because I'm not on the business side, so I'm still, I have a decent enough sense of how the business works for both of them, but um, the key is going to be not just having people attend these tournaments and play these tournaments, but getting people to watch these tournaments. In general, for me, it seems like the goal with pickleball moving forward is to try to get it on TV and try to get it to the masses, right? So
Yeah,
for me and you, it's a little different if we watch a YouTube stream of pickleball. Like we're diehard enough where we're going to want to tune in. We're going to see how these people are doing. But to the average person off the street who kind of knows what pickleball is, doesn't know what pickleball is the sport entertaining enough to kind of get it to the masses and get these high level viewers to where there's more money into it? Um, I think that's kind of the bigger picture, and I think that's where I think the APP and the PPA could try to work together. Is like, how are we going to grow this sport together to be sustainable for a long time, to get it into the Olympics, to get TV viewership, and to really get the money in that's going to make it last for a long time. For me, that's like what I would like to see.
yeah,
I hope the APP doesn't go away because, like I said, I mean, half of the tournaments that I might play this year are APPs because they're close enough, and for the full-time, part-time pro like me, like I need as many tournaments as I can. So in that case, I would love to have both of them. But yeah, I'm interested to see what happens, especially kind of with the TV viewership. So.
yeah. So let's hit on one point there. So I get it. The APP tournaments are closer, but the fact that you need them practice is one thing. Like clearly you need to be able to play these tournaments so that you can play higher level players, improve your game. But
Mhm.
what's the end goal for you right now? Like you play an APP, you get points. I get that. You maybe can win some money. Maybe that helps with even more sponsorship dollars. But what do you have to get to here to make this a full-time gig for you? Because I was interviewing James Ignatovich a couple weeks ago. He's just in a totally different position because he's a top 5 singles pro and has some sponsorship dollars, and he mentioned he has family money to kinda help him on the side. So, for you, what's it gonna take to be full-time?
Yeah, I think, for me, pickleball's never been I've never thought of pickleball as a career, right? Like for me, it's
Yeah.
been a great way to stay competitive after playing relatively high level college tennis, and having a break. And it's been a great way for me to stay competitive and stay in shape. And it just so happens, these tournaments are a blast, and I enjoy the competition. To kind of jump to full time, maybe a hybrid position of working for a company. I've done well with the two paddle companies I've represented, both in the present and the past, in terms of sales.
Shout him
So
out. Come on, who you with?
yeah, yeah, I was with Engage to start, and now I'm with ProXR. So
Sweet.
um, I've done well to sell for both of those companies. So if there was a hybrid position out there where I could do that and also attend these tournaments and be sponsored and really give it a full go. That would definitely be something that I'd have to consider. But um, I love my life the way it is now, and I'm happy being able to kind of do a bunch of different things without the pressure of necessarily like providing food on the table for myself and anyone else. So
Yeah.
um, but if the right opportunity came around, that would be something for me too. Like these tournaments are a great way to meet people, to really have a community, and a lot of my friends are in pickleball. It's great to see them, and it'd be awesome too to kind of continue to develop and eventually play at the highest level. So yeah,
You are playing at the highest level. You just beat
yeah,
Tyson
yeah,
McGuffin, man. Come
yeah.
on.
True, true.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah,
No, but happiness is key. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah.
Um, Going back a moment to tournaments, these different brands, MLP, APP, PPA. Something came to mind this week. We're on the cusp of MLP doing this fun draft between the owners and some like media figures in the space. And then I'm thinking about like US Nationals, which is moving to Dallas, and the US Open just happened a couple weeks ago. Coming from tennis, I'm not high level like you, but I'm a huge tennis fan and played in high
Mhm.
school. You clearly know the sport. What do you think about pickleball and like more major tournaments? Something like not as fancy as a Wimbledon, but do you think that's a lever for the sport to grow in both viewership and attendance and to create more buzz? Or do you think that these PPAs just constantly and APPs just moving throughout the country will eventually just continue to draw larger crowds? Do they need a majors? Do they need like 4 or 5 majors a year to make it interesting?
I mean, I think that's a good idea because you look at MLP, and those are the most coveted events of the year, right? Like that's what everyone's playing for. That's what everyone's most excited about are those events, and that's really where the spectators are kind of, going nuts and really driving um, viewership and you know the excitement is there.
Yep.
So for me, I would love and the PPA, both tours are starting to do this some is they have these large tournaments, get the Hyundai Masters and Atlanta in 2 weeks, I think it's a Grand Slam. So I think that's the way it should move too, because then outside of MLP, you have more of a season and you have more of a calendar that you can kind of pick and choose, and it'd be awesome to see them do something like the tennis does with the US Open, where you have the point series leading up to the US Open, and you get
Yeah.
Cincinnati and those fun tournaments. I think that would just be awesome because then not only would you have the excitement around MLP, but you can have these other kind of calendar dates that you're really looking forward to, and maybe having a leading up to that would maybe get some other people's excitement, except for apart from the regular Joe. So I love that tennis does that. I love the idea of Roland Garros. I love the tradition of Wimbledon. I think that's something pickleball should work towards establishing, and I think ultimately will. I think it's leaning that way.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. There's just
Yeah.
some news that came out today, and this is right in your backyard, but they're bringing the Western and Southern to Charlotte in 2026, and they're building like a pretty massive facility to house it. And I could just think like, what if in 10 years, pickleball is building a similar facility in facilities across the country to house these major tournaments? It would be pretty epic.
And it's going to be needed too. I mean, the one knock on I thought Charlotte was an incredible tournament, but the one knock was just the space constraints, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you were there on Saturday, which you were, there were seemingly 1,500 people in a building that was not meant to house that many people. It just made viewing tough. It made bathrooms tough. I mean, it was tough. So if this sport keeps growing like it has and like it probably will, we're going to have to find these bigger venues and these mega sites to kind of one have enough players, but also accommodate the growth and viewership and people attending because those are going to be the people that are generating the revenue. They're generating the revenue. We got to make sure that they're having the best experience possible. So I think it's going to move that way.
Good. Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned it in just a piece of like content I created on maybe Saturday or Sunday. It was funny how accessible everyone was. It seemed like I know I bugged you, of course. You just happened to sit like 2 seats next to me on championship court, but all the other pros too were just kind of meandering in between courts or happened to be walking around. Was there at least like a pro locker room or no?
Yeah, they had the patio outside kind of as the pro space with chairs
Okay.
and seating and waters, and then they definitely took care of us. And we had that area too. It's that's what's funny though is like if you're not on center, you're walking to court 10 or you're walking to court
Yeah.
23 and you're walking past 4 O's, 3 5s, fans, vendors. Like, I think that's part of the fun, and I don't want it to lose kind of that community feel that comes with it being a little bit smaller. But I'm thinking about logistics, the, with qualies even on Wednesday, there were just so many people and the courts were close together and it just felt very we just felt very on top of each other, which obviously is the result of having so many people wanting to play. So it's hard. How do you grow and accommodate the growth without kind of losing that charm that is the community feel of pickleball? So
I'm with you. I don't know where you put it all. There's just right now the
yeah,
growth is so big that
yeah,
like that facility was amazing. But even
yeah,
the fact that it was this this sport and that event had outgrown that space is
yeah,
pretty wild. It seems like you could probably I know they need the money probably for the amateur tournament, but you could get away with just having the pros there, it seemed. Because I would have really
sure.
enjoyed just like fans and pros and being able to watch. And then like even being able to pay you guys a little extra money on the side, like if you're willing to do a clinic
Hmm.
if you lost, I would totally be in just to go play for an hour and pay for some pro to watch and give me feedback. So maybe there's some opportunity for that in the future.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Some fun stuff. I don't know how much you keep up with this piece, but for whatever it's worth, give me what you got. The director, GM of Major League Pickleball came on the Dink podcast and was talking. He kind of alluded to the idea. Let me throw it in two pieces. One, that delamination is a real problem, but one of the constants here that is being not talked about enough is the ball itself. That's a constant, whereas everyone's using different brands, but everyone's using the same ball. Maybe it's the Franklin, maybe it's the Dura. And
Hmm.
then could they develop a ball that is maybe better suited for the sport that doesn't maybe harm the paddle, create delamination? I'm sure there's money to be made by having your own ball for your own tour. And then on the side, you have Diadem, and there's a new company called Rhombus who are making EV foam paddles. What do you think about the idea of changing up the ball, changing up the paddle, or both for the greater good, or does that hurt the sport?
I think this is obviously a delicate topic. I'm blessed to be with a company that's faced no delamination
Right.
issues
I haven't heard
with
much at
regards to
all,
our
if
stuff.
anything.
Yeah, so knock on wood. But I think we're good there. You look at what's happened since I've started playing in the last couple of years. The paddles have changed a ton since I came in. I remember using um, the engaged paddle I was using. It was like totally different than what's out there right now. You could barely generate any spin. Everything was flat. The power wasn't there. Now some of these paddles, it's like holy cow, that makes a massive difference in the game. Um, and I'm all for that. I'm all for the game growing and the game getting better. It's the same thing that happened with wooden tennis rackets to graphite in tennis. It made a huge difference. It made the sport what it is today. So As for the ball, the ball frustrates me a lot because we basically have two balls. You have the Franklin X40 and the Onyx Dura. Um, those are the only two balls that are used at tournaments. And not only are they, I think they're overpriced and they're too expensive. No offense to those companies. I mean, I would charge it too if there were only two balls that were taken. But
Right.
not only do I think they're overpriced, but you never know what you're going to get, and you never know when they're going to break. And they're probably breaking way too quickly. So the ball is interesting to me because I think that's an area of growth that we haven't tapped into, and I would love to see some other companies and the PPA and the USAP and all these governing bodies. I'd like to see them welcome the addition of some other balls, just so that we could, through competition, create a better ball. You know what I mean? That's what happened with
Yeah.
these paddles. You had 3 or 4 paddle companies that were doing pretty much everything, and now you have a ton. I mean, there seems like there's a new paddle company every day.
I think there's like
And through that,
150 on the market approved. It's insane.
yeah, it's insane. And
Brands, just brands. Yeah.
but with that, you think about how much the paddles have grown in such a short time. So why are we not doing that with balls? Creating a new ball would also, we could move to different services. You could start to think about clay
Mm.
pickleball, which is becoming a thing. Indoor is a totally different game. How do we make this game as consistent across all the different services, all the events? And I think the ball's a big way to do that. So I'd love to see some enhancements and improvements there.
Nice. Good take. I saw Tyler Loong. Maybe you were watching this one too, but he put a hole, like a dent straight into the ball on Saturday. I couldn't tell if he hit the top of his paddle and it was like the edge guard went into the ball, or if he just smacked that thing so hard. I mean, they picked it up and it had a dent right in it, which I hadn't
Missed
seen
that.
before.
Yeah,
I've only
that's
seen like
crazy.
it crack in half. I haven't seen someone put a dent in the ball, but it's pretty amazing.
That is
But I'm with
crazy.
you. I think for whatever my opinion's worth, the EV foam videos that I've watched, these paddles from Diadem and Rhombus, it sounds like they generate a lot of power, which I think scares some people.
Mhm.
I don't know how much. I mean, I know it matters, but maybe people will just adapt to that. And it's super quiet. And if you're not going to have as many issues with the core, and it's a longer lasting paddle for the consumer, I'm just interested in it. And then on the other side with balls, I feel like the sport is in such like a its infancy. I'm with you
Mhm.
that I feel like we could play around with different types of balls. They could hand them to pros like you and say, just go play with this, go practice with this
Right.
concept, give us feedback on it. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Is it bouncing right? Whatever. I'm just not sure if there's enough money or brands getting into it, but maybe if the MLP is backing it with some of the money they have behind them, maybe we could get to some pretty good innovation.
Yeah, definitely. A good take.
Cool. All right. Well, all right. This one's fun. So I got to meet Travis Rettenmeyer briefly at the tournament, and I'm a huge fan of his podcast. I just feel like he's really open to just talk bluntly about the sport or things he likes or doesn't like. And he's
Mhm.
also an owner of an MLP, co-owner of an MLP team. And he brought up something on his podcast and then reposted on Instagram. He feels like the sport of pickleball needs to be a rowdy fan sport. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember Rowdy Roddy Piper, but since you're Eric Roddy, we're gonna pretend like you're Rowdy. Would you be down for soccer fans, that kind of atmosphere at a pickleball event? Or do you like the idea of more of a traditional calmness during the points?
No, I'm all in for the first thing. I'm all in for the soccer atmosphere. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If we want pickleball to be sustainable and really keep growing and reach the viewers that I think everyone wants on TV, and to become, an accepted sport on TV and reach the masses, I think that's got to be part of it. If we're being blunt, and I love the sport, it's not the most exciting sport when you watch a 20-25 ball dink rally.
Yeah.
So the entertainment value is not there. It's getting better, obviously, with speed ups and the power and the paddles we've talked about, but at the core of its game, hitting a third shot drop and getting to the kitchen and then proceeding to dink the ball for 20, 30 balls it's not exciting to non pickleball players. So the idea of having that intense atmosphere, having some drama, I mean, the NBA, if you think about it, is built around drama and storylines.
Yeah.
It's not the NBA that I grew up with 20 years ago. It's not the NBA from the 80s where it was about the basketball. it is about storylines and entertainment now, and they do a great job with it. I'm not dissing them. Do I think the pickleball needs to go that far? No, but I think it needs to have an entertainment value, and I think that would be provided if you could yell during the point, if you could get rowdy, if you could, um, if there could be that kind of atmosphere. Obviously within reason and respect. You don't want anyone to feel disrespected out there, but it needs that. I think it really needs that for the entertainment value.
All right, let me throw a couple of ideas at you, and you tell me if this is too far, right
Okay,
on par, or not crazy enough.
gotcha.
Cameron Indoor Stadium. I know you're a Southern guy. So Duke University, they got the fans pretty close to the court, almost the closest in college basketball. Would you be down to be surrounded by fans on all sides within, let's say, 20 feet of the baseline?
Yeah, I'm in. Again, as long as it doesn't inhibit or prohibit my ability to move around the court, yes. Yeah, as long as it doesn't inhibit. Yeah, I'm all for it.
All right. Waste Management Open. Beers being thrown in the air with a big shot that happens. In or out?
Uh, in, in.
As long as somebody can clean
Yeah,
up the
let's
court.
absolutely, absolutely. As long as those cans aren't hitting us on the court, yeah, I'm all for
All right. Cheerleaders. You want them on the court or is it too much?
it. I don't. I have never thought about pickleball cheerleaders. That idea in itself is kind of hilarious and kind of ridiculous. If that's what people want, and if that's something that would enhance the game and bring more viewers, then sure. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know if that kind of fits.
Well, let me add some context. This isn't exactly what I meant by that question, but I had commented on Travis's post. I think that what you could do at first, if everybody was kind of on par with this or on board with it, I think you need to kind of seed hype men or women into the
Mhm.
crowd to, number one, let them know it's okay to get excited and yell and scream and cheer. But on the other side, I don't know if you want to make it super lopsided. So
Right.
like if Federico's beating up on Tyson or vice versa, I don't know if you want the entire crowd just like booing Fed, right? You
Yeah.
may want somebody on the other side to be like, let's pump him up, let's get this going, let's make it exciting. So whether it's cheerleaders on the court or people in the crowd that can help bring the energy for both players or both teams, that's what I would be interested in, just to let people know that it's okay to stand up, cheer, get
Yes.
after it. So,
Totally good with that. Yeah. That makes tons of sense.
all right,
All
well,
in.
introduce me to whoever you need to, so we can make
Okay.
this happen. I'll
I
send
got
an
you.
email. You just give me the email addresses. Are you keeping up? So let me ask you this: We had the Challenger draft recently. Did you toss your name into the mix
I'm
for
in
MLP?
there. Yeah, I'm in there. Don't know if it's gonna happen, but if a GM is out there listening, take a chance. I'm in there.
Let's go. Bring Eric in.
Yeah.
All right, listen, I am trying my best. I watched every one that I could this past year, but the shuffle draft. So I've watched MILP, the minor league, because there's a guy in my
Mhm.
town that plays on the Duper 20, and I've watched Challenger because it happens like the same time, but beforehand. I've watched it all, but the draft thing is I'm struggling with it a bit. Can you help me understand, like between now and San Clemente, what are you expecting to hear, if anything, on the Challenger side?
So I think it's already done. I think the teams have. I think the shuffle draft has already happened, and we saw some changes. I saw John Cincola got picked up. Um,
I saw a couple of moves, like Ben Newell
Phil
got
Phil yeah,
got
Phil
bumped
Locklear
down,
replaced Ben Newell for Atlanta.
and I saw
Yeah.
a trade. We had like DJ Young,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
DJ Young got
Yeah.
traded.
So I
But
think uh, I think
keep
all
going.
those moves are done. At this point, I think they'll take alternates and they'll take kind of that kind of thing. But I think the rosters are set and we're ready to go for
But
San
trades
Clemente.
for the major league teams can still happen up until that tournament.
I believe so. I'm sure in other leagues they have to have kind of a deadline when it's like, okay, we can't, 2 days before the tournament can't make a trade. But um, I don't know if trading follows kind of the draft of, hey, that's the shuffle draft, we're done. So I'm not entirely sure on that, but I would imagine they have a hard stop, as they get closer.
Are you at least going to attend the Atlanta MLP tournament?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the plan. Obviously San Clemente is a little bit tougher of a
Yeah.
journey out there. So yeah, I think that's definitely the plan.
And do
Because
they
I know
also
they'll.
offer like a tournament for people who aren't in the MLP?
I think that's the case. I think that's what they're doing. They're making it kind of more of a week-long event than just kind of that weekend. So I'm pretty sure there's an event. I know there was for Mace out there. They had the PPA event before, and then they had MLP. So I think that's the plan,
Sweet.
which would be great. Yeah.
Are you team rally scoring?
Yeah, so again, that's back to this it all goes back to that entertainment reaching the masses. We played a couple games rally scoring to get Brooke Buckner ready for MLP and I actually really enjoyed it. It makes you kind of lock in for every point
Yeah.
because you know that like, hey, this point actually really matters and the freeze is awesome. Because it gives the team trailing obviously a chance to get back in it, but not too much of a chance where it's like, what's the point? You might as well just tank until somebody gets a 20. So I really like the concept, and I think again it speeds everything up and then makes it more intense and makes you have to watch every point, which I think is key.
All right, let me ask you this. Somebody brought this up on a YouTube video that I watched, that one of the reasons against rally scoring is that it takes the offense away from the serving team because they still have to wait for the ball to come back and
hmm
bounce. Would you take that away? Like, would that make things even more interesting that the serving team doesn't have to wait on the bounce?
Uh, I think I would. I think my skill would be tripled because I served and volleyed a fair amount in college, and
Nice.
so but that's the whole point of pickleball, right? I mean, you got the no volley zone, so at that point, I think it just kind of jeopardizes the integrity of the game a little too much. But I mean, that's a fair point with rally scoring, like that advantage of you know having to that disadvantage of having to let the third drop is definitely a factor, and why you see so many teams that are frozen end up tying it and getting back into it. So
Yeah.
that's a fair point there. But yeah, no serve and volley in pickleball. I don't think it's gonna happen ever.
All right. You heard it here first. All right. So give me your favorite player on the come up right now. James's was Hurricane Tyra Black, and he's got his buddy Dave, who's playing on the APP tour. Who do you got out there that we need to be watching out for?
Um, yeah, I'll give a shout out to another Division 3 tennis legend, Mo Alhouni. It's funny because I saw his name in a bracket like 2 months ago, and I was like, that name looks really familiar. And then I remembered we played Division 3 tennis at the same time. So he went to Gustavus Adolphus up in Minnesota,
Okay.
which actually I believe produced Eric Buderak, who's like the most successful Division 3 tennis player of all time, won majors and
Wow.
dubs, and yeah, Mo was a stud when I was at Swanee. He was at Gustavus. We played in a national tournament together after winning our regionals. So um, he's going to be, I believe he's going to be really really good. He's already had some really good singles wins. So I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he's going to be a stud. So super
Amazing.
talented, super gifted, and the tennis game translates perfectly. It was very crafty and good. So he's the man. Yeah.
Is he in the draw for Cincinnati? Have you seen him in the draw?
No, I think he's out on Cincinnati. I think he was TBD on Atlanta too. He actually works for Lifetime
Oh,
as a
okay.
general manager up there. So yeah, I know he's busy, but I'm sure we'll see him again soon. So
Listen, I guess maybe you can get some free tournaments out of it. It's great.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Waive his fee.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we saw a couple tweeners last weekend, but what is like your favorite shot? Are you a tweener, Ernie, ATP, something I don't even know about?
No, I mean, my kind of flair and fun that I bring to the game is I love to slice in tennis. So I'll hit some non-traditional volleys when I'm up at the kitchen, and
Hmm,
my opponents are back. Like I'll really knife them or hit them or drop them. Colin Schick's got a great drop shot. I think mine's second to him. It's up there. Um, that and just my backhand. I love being able to hit a two-handed backhand down the line
yeah.
across court. I think that's my best shot in singles without a doubt. So definitely knifing the volleys at the net and hitting the two-hander. So
You think that's like an extra benefit of your paddle, like your Pro XR, that's your main sponsor? Like you feel you get like extra handle length and it helps you achieve like that two-handed backhand?
yeah, that's what's been great about Zane Navratil's paddle for the Pro XRs. They kind of went to that traditional handle. It's a little bit longer, so it helps with the two-hander. I'm using the raw carbon 14 millimeter with them.
Nice.
And I've never had an issue kind of with the paddle not being as long as tennis. I just kind of choke up a little bit and mostly use the left hand when I hit the two-handed backhand. So haven't noticed any issues there. But yeah, really enjoying the paddle and getting a lot of grit and spin and power. So it's perfect.
What's your setup? Because I know a lot of my friends nerd out about this a bit. Ben Johns just released a video basically showing that he takes the entire grip off his Yola and regrips it, like everything, all the way down to the bones, and then just regrips it. Are you adding some lead tape to the throat? Are you regripping it all together? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I've got to be the least um I probably care the least about my paddle at any pro.
Just stock off the shelf.
I'll always say the paddle makes, minimal difference. It's the player, but obviously nowadays the paddles are different enough to where I think they're adding a big factor. So I use Turna Grip Mega Tack over the original grip that it comes with, and then I've got some lead tape around the sides, nothing on the throat, but around the sides and at the top. Um, it's about I play about 8.6 ounces somewhere around there. So huge fan of the Turner Grip Mega Tack though. I mean I have decently sweaty hands when I play, so it
Yeah.
keeps dry and has a lot of tack. So I really like that.
All right, Turner, if you're listening, sponsor
Yeah,
this
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Let me get a sponsor.
Yo,
Yeah,
come on.
grips are expensive.
Yeah, everything's expensive. I hear you.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's get you set up.
Yeah.
All right, what top 10 doubles combo do you want to play?
Ooh, this is tough. So Jim and I were talking about this when we were talking about the draw. I can tell you who I don't want to play.
Oh, here we
And
go.
it's not a fear thing. I just respect of it's JW and Dylan.
Okay.
Um, I obviously watched Riley and Matt take them out at North Carolina, but before that I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure what the game plan would be against this team. They're
Mm,
so solid at dinking. JW's hands are unbelievable, and Dylan's are getting better every day. So um, just tough team to play. A lot of respect for those guys. Um, I mean, I had a blast playing Sock and McGuffin again. That was just so much fun. So, trying to think. Yeah. Always love to play against Julian Arnold. Play with him, play rec with him. He's a great guy. So, would love to play him and whoever he's playing with. But yeah, there's not a team out there that I'm necessarily like, oh, I really want to play them. There's it's more about kind of just who's hot at the time and who would it be fun to kind of take the court. Pablo and Fed would be awesome. Fed's another guy I
yeah.
played college tennis with, so
Oh,
would
cool.
be fun to play Fed and Pablo. They're
Absolutely.
doing really well right now too. So
All right, can you back up a personal assessment that I made?
sure.
I I walked around watching all sorts of pros at every court that I could. Is Deckel Bar hitting the biggest serve on tour? It felt like he was hitting the fastest serve I saw out of anybody.
Yeah, so I think it's got to be between um, him and McGuffin.
Okay.
McGuffin's serve is so heavy.
He's got that big
Um,
loop, man. It's like gotta
yeah,
pop off the ground really hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the equivalent of a kick serve at tennis. I mean, it is very heavy and he hits it deep and if you don't short hop it perfectly, if you have to, you're in trouble. So Deckel's it might be the fastest. And he's so, he's so big and so tall and then he steps into the court as he hits it. Um, so it's got a lot of power and a lot of pop and it almost seems like it's coming from a down angle,
Mm,
just because of how tall he is. So definitely two of the better servers in the league. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment to say it's between those two. Thank God the spin serves, over that used to give me nightmares. So yeah, from a straight up serve, those are probably two of the toughest.
yeah, where Zane would turn around backwards and then just pop out of nowhere like a magician.
Yeah, crazy, crazy.
That wouldn't be much fun at all. All right, man. Well, this has been great. Who else you need to shout out here? Who else deserves some credit for your W's?
I mean, just the Charlotte crew. We got again Brooke Buckner, Jim Dobrin, Jack Sock, Colin Schick. Colin Schick is a road warrior, man. He's the
Yeah.
man. He's been driving. He's a med student at UNC Chapel Hill, and he's been driving sometimes 2.5 hours from Chapel Hill to come play with us. So huge shout out to that guy. He's the man.
I don't know how
Really
he's still
enjoyed.
doing school. Like I have a buddy who's like in
Crazy.
residency. I don't know how you would do med school and
He's
also,
doing well too. I mean, I'm sure he's setting the curve. That the guy is a genius. So,
love
yeah,
it.
I mean, just want to give a shout out to them, and then to again Mo Alhouni. It's good to see him again and represent the D3 tennis crew. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
What's this
yeah.
shirt you're wearing? I mean, I noticed it when you hopped on, like it looks pretty fresh. What was the brand again?
Yeah, I'll roll into the plugs here. So this is Steggy's Henley. It's
Okay.
a smaller but blossoming Henley t-shirt website, steggies.com. A guy I work with, Brian, who's my de facto agent. It's his buddy's company, and they're based outside of Philadelphia, and super awesome Henley t-shirt if you're into kind of that style, and washable, dryable. It's like impossible to mess it up. So. Um,
Nice.
yeah, really enjoyed them. Enjoyed working with them, and then Keto Crisp with Taste Can Do. Haley with them is awesome. She's like the best person to work with, and I love those bars. I've been eating them. I genuinely actually like them. It's not one of those things where you say you like them, you don't
Yeah.
ever eat them. So
This is trash.
yeah, yeah, and then Pro XR for really kind of their partnership and everything they've done. Jim obviously was a huge help there, having been with them for a couple years. So shout out to Jim too. It's been fun, man, and we'll keep it rolling. But yeah, those are the sponsors, and I'll have some links and codes in there. So if anyone wants to buy some stuff, so yeah,
Let's do it. And then
yeah.
what about you personally? I know that you like do some instructional stuff. Where can people find you? Can they take advantage of your coaching from afar or
Yeah, yeah. So one last little plug here is been working on an ebook actually about pickleball with some instructions, kind of the basics. It's meant more for beginners, and it's nothing expansive. It's not a novel or anything. It's just a nice short little ebook for people wanting to get into pickleball. So stay tuned for that. That'll be available soon. I'm working with some editors now to kind of get that finalized, and yeah, I mean, I've been teaching at Pickleball Charlotte some with Jim. We've been doing some clinics here in Charlotte. And then I've got a couple private lessons I've been working with. So huge fan of coaching. Got to coach the UGA women's tennis team the past couple of years while I got my MBA at Georgia, and coached
sweet?
at Swarthmore College in my past. So I feel like I'm a coach at heart, and really enjoy just seeing people get better, and the excitement of kind of getting something and moving to the next level. So yeah, if you're in the Charlotte area or if you're at a tournament, you kind of want to work on something, I'm happy to spend the time. So
How should they get in touch? Instagram's the best way? Twitter? What do you
yeah,
like?
Instagram, Twitter, it's RICRODDY1 Rick Roddy on Instagram, and then Twitter it's Roddy PFN from my Pro Football Network days. So
There you
yeah,
go.
either one it works. So I'm on both. So,
I have to ask, it looks like in your Twitter profile picture you got like a concert. What concert are you at?
yeah, so that photo was taken with my buddy Peter at the well, we were at the NBA program in Georgia. We went to Chris Stapleton, but the
Okay.
latest for me is I'm big obsessed with Goose.
Dude, no
They're
way.
yeah,
I'm a
huge
major
Goose
Goose
fan.
fan.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I went and saw him in Athens a couple months ago, and hopefully gonna go to Chattanooga. So
good for you. I'll be in Columbus in
huge
June
Goose
for
fan.
that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean they're incredible. So that's all I've been listening to lately. I can't stop.
I can't believe we took this entire time to just now connect on this.
Yeah, we got to go to a show. Now it's in the making.
I can keep this in the podcast. People need to go to the shows. Follow
Yeah,
Goose.
yeah. Everyone go see Goose. So, dude, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
I appreciate you coming on and doing this, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again soon. So I appreciate it. Let me know if you need anything from me.
Oh yeah, dude. Good luck this weekend. Have at it.
Awesome. Thanks, man. See ya.
Later.